Hey guys, welcome to the Business Owner Spotlight. I am Stephanie Scheller, your host, giving business owners just like you the opportunity to bring light to the world around you, to other business owners, because we all understand it is one thing to hear great advice from Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates or Michael Dubin or Mark Cuban. All these guys have fantastic advice for us. But some of it rings a little bit less true when you're getting advice from a multi-billionaire. And sometimes we just need to hear it from the people who are in the trenches fighting and working towards it. So today's Business Owner Spotlight is Rick Carter. Now, Rick, we're doing this a little bit different. Rick is just calling in. So I know you guys can see me. You're going to get a beautiful picture of a phone when Rick talks, because he's unable to join us via video, but I still thought he had some real value to add. So Rick, thank you for taking time to join me today.
Sure. Thank you, Stephanie.
So for our listeners and for me, because we've never chatted before, what is your story? What do you do? And how did you get to doing that?
Okay. I'm in the life and health insurance industry. I also am certified in mediation and registered with Bexar County, Texas for mediation services. Those mediation services do focus on financial recovery from generally financial advisors that may have done the wrong thing with the customer's money. Another area is in private banking, and that's a newer part of my business, and that's where we can provide financial resources and capital to a small business that's trying to grow.
Nice.
I've been in this business for 38 years as of this month. So I started right out of college.
I was going to say when you were 5, right?
That's right. Yeah. So I started out of college with a company that focused doing the financial and retirement planning for college professors. And my focus at that time was more on the junior college professors. Here in Texas, junior colleges are pretty popular in most of the big cities, and they employ a lot of people, and those educators do need some assistance in their planning.
So what was it about this that made you say, this is what I want to do? Because 38 years, obviously there must be something about the industry you like. What was it that made you say, hey, I want to do this? And then what was it that made you stay?
Okay. Well, when this type of business is introduced to people, particularly, when they're in their 20s or just out of college, they can see the big rainbow out there. Wow, you can actually make a lot of money, doing this kind of thing. That's normally what the motivator is. The actuality is you have to look at it from the benefit that you're providing to the customer, number one, and also, what other valuable things can you do for the small business owner or for a family and helping them benefit in the future? It may be referring that business owner customers. It may be helping them develop in another way with their business development. But that fosters good relationships, and it also encourages referrals, which are essential in this business.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because unfortunately, the financial services field, and whether you're in life insurance or whatever you're in, anytime you're touching people's money, there is a lot of trust that has to be built up there.
That's right. Yes. Integrity is very important. I had a reminder the other day. I'm now getting referrals off of Facebook and LinkedIn. These are with people that are around the state. I'm only licensed for that here in the state of Texas, but it's a big state. And like this one came out of just outside of Fort Worth. Of course, I do not know the gentleman. I had never met him before, but he said that we've been friends on Facebook for a year. He's seen my postings about some insurance services and some savings versus what, is available through the Affordable Care Act. And so he gave me a call. He said the number one reason why he was talking to me, it has to do with trust. He says, I've looked at your postings, that had nothing to do with insurance, and I could just tell by your postings, you're a man of integrity, a Christian, somebody that we, can feel comfortable, that we're going to get the accurate information and maybe move forward. So, that was a good reminder.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So what so you got started. You said you got started and were attracted for the same reason. And let's not joke. I mean, there's plenty of money to be made in your industry, but there are a lot of people who get in just for that, and then they get out almost as quickly because they find out that it's not like you all of a sudden wake up a year later and suddenly you're making $100,000 for working 2 hours a week. So how did you push through that? How did you keep going to make it happen?
That is a very, very good question, because I was at that stage after being in the business, let's say about 5 or 6 years. I decided, and somebody had guided me. They said, you know what, go out and find a corporate job for a few years and make that work for you, and then come back out in the insurance industry.
Yeah.
And of course, at that point, I didn't particularly want to get out of the industry, but I applied with a very large company in San Antonio called USAA, which focuses upon the military and having a good reputation in the industry. So when I got employed there, they had educational opportunities. And so the education and the advanced education was a driving force to stay in the business. At that time, I had actually set a record on the oldest designation in the financial industry, which is called a chartered life underwriter. And they came out in 1910 with a college in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, called the American College. And I set the record at 10 and a half months. Now, somebody has beaten my record since then, but I was proud to have that at that time.
Oh, yeah, no kidding.
And I went further, and they had another designation called a Chartered Financial Consulting designation. So again, this being in the middle to late 80s, at a time where financial planning became like a new industry, and along with that, there's new designations that come out.
Mm-hmm.
The customers are often very confused as to what does that mean. We know what a CPA is, Certified Public Accountant, but what does a CLU, CHFC, CFP, what do all these mean? And so that's been part of our challenge, is just educating the public on what they are. Overall, just for the listeners, really, the primary difference is a state or some kind of a government type of agency certifying that professional. In the case of a CPA, they are certified public accountant. Or when you hear about the board certified attorney or doctor, that is a state board certification. Financial advisors, although they're regulated, they're licensed with the state. They have securities license and such, but there is no like a governmental agency that is certifying any financial advisors.
Really?
Yes.
That blows my mind. I thought there were.
That's news to you, isn't it? Because right, and so that that I bet a lot of the financial advisors don't even know that. Well, I went on from that point because I had more challenges, and in this company with a lot of resources towards educational practices. I applied to get my master's degree at a local private university called St. Mary's University, and it took a few years, but I worked that pretty hard and got a double master's in finance and operations management. Because of the experience I'd had in the outside sales world, working with the college professors and such, as well as the inside the corporate world, I was able to bring a lot more value as a graduate student than most of the other students that were there. A number of the students were active duty in the military. They bring great experience. We really appreciate all that they do. But from a business perspective, they benefited more by being another student in the class. The career students, what we refer to them, is those who are, and God bless them, they're doing a great job going through their undergraduate straight to the graduate school. They're not really getting the true value because they don't have the outside work experience necessarily to be able to take advantage of this new knowledge that they're bringing into it. So I encourage people to, yes, pursue your education, get an advanced degree, a master's degree, certifications, what have you, but have that outside work experience at least for a few years before going into that.
So what was probably it sounds like basically while the education was, I've been taking notes. Sorry, I get a little bit distracted and I don't
That's
do
okay.
well at multitasking. So I take notes and then I have to like process what I just wrote down. Um, but so it sounds like education has been huge, but you also see people who just get stuck just doing education. You struck the balance.
Yes, yes. I was seeking a balance, and the industry was going through a lot of changes as well. Tax law changes, changes in how they do calculations for insurance and such, and what's a tax shelter, what isn't a tax shelter. A lot of things were going
All
on,
the stuff we love
prior.
hearing about.
Right, exactly. And so, that was all the more reason why it was important to be part of a large corporate environment, because then we had other people there, the attorneys. They could review these laws, or somebody in compliance. What does all this really mean? And so we had that. Let's say that the protection, that umbrella for us as licensed agents. Um, as we approached towards the end of the 90s, a hurricane had struck in Florida that cost the company a significant amount of money, because it hit directly on an Air Force base where they had a lot of insureds. So they brought in a man who had a history of coming into an organization, sort of like breaking it apart to make it more efficient, and then moving forward from there. Then, of course, they go on and they find a new CEO. Well, that's what happened, and a lot of us saw that as an opportunity to go ahead and move on and take our career in another direction. And so I did that. I left and went with a small, it's small in the insurance industry, but still many billions of dollars. It's called Franklin Life, and they were out of the Midwest. They were the company that, Stephanie, what they would do is they would hire coaches. And this is kind of interesting. Why coaches? Well, coaches know how to motivate, number one. Coaches have a certain work ethic, number two. And everyone knows a coach, particularly in a small town. Okay.
Right.
So it really made sense. And so I joined that company and met a lot of coaches, and it was a great company. But then it was at a time where the big giants were coming along and swallowing up the smaller companies. And so eventually we became a part of AIG. Now, for those of us in business, we understand what happened with AIG. They required bailout money from the federal government. Now, Stephanie, how am I supposed to come to you and your family and give you the assurance that this company is going to take care of your family if they're relying upon government bailout money?
Right.
That dog just doesn't hunt. That fish just won't bite, and so, even though they're still in business and they tailor themselves as what you would call a low-cost provider and use a lot of alternate distribution systems, but for the practical sense of doing the proper job for a family, I don't see how that could really be a part of it. But they've obviously paid many claims, and they're still a going concern, but that's just something we don't tend to forget. So as I moved on in the middle of the last decade, so let's say around 2005, 2006, changing what we call is a broker-dealer. A broker-dealer is your clearinghouse for security. We often think about the Morgan Stanleys, the Merrill Lynches, all those big companies. Well, yes, they have their broker-dealer, but the majority of financial advisors are licensed through an independent broker-dealer. The vast majority are. That way, that advisor has independence as to how they can conduct their business, what type of clients they're going to have, what kind of products they're going to sell to those clients. They have to stay within the compliance regulations, of course, to make sure their work is suitable in the best interest of the client. Okay, but there was just a lot of changes going on at that time. Unfortunately, here again, financial disaster strikes with a lot of types of investments. We had a major oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, so people who bought into oil and gas exploration, well, that no longer was a viable option. The stock market hit a low towards 2007 or so it became less popular. Of course, those who invested at that time held it till now. They can see a substantial return. But that's why you diversify. That's why financial advisors need to diversify their clients properly to prepare for different things that will happen.
Okay.
So with those changes, I moved on away from the broker-dealer world. It just became, as a business owner, too expensive of an infrastructure to support. And the reason why was because of all the fraud that was rampant in the business. Because financial advisors, they have to buy insurance to protect our business. In the event something goes wrong, the customer has to have some means of being able to recoup other than market loss. So this would be losses due to, let's say, the malpractice of the financial advisor or somebody who's associated with their broker-dealer. And so that essentially became a very expensive means of conducting business. So I moved more into the health and the life insurance business. Now, with the development of social media, I like others, became fascinated with the idea of getting customers online, getting somebody to see me on my website or on a Google search and, hey, I'm going to do business with this guy. But wow, that's a less expensive way to do business. They might be, 100 miles away or a couple hundred miles away in this case. And, we can still do business. We'll have this trusting relationship because they can see my postings are maybe consistent, with their value system. Mm-hmm. And so I've been developing that for, about 8 years. And I did this through Facebook and through LinkedIn, where we actually definitely got hooked up in LinkedIn.
Right.
I remember one month, and I'm going back to about 2011, I added 200 people on LinkedIn. I was so excited. Wow, I added 200 business owners and professionals in this social media. Wow, this really can work. How many of those are going to turn into customers? Well, again, it doesn't necessarily work like that, but there is a rule of large numbers. Then fast forward to 2015, January 2015. Here again, I'm excited. I have 2,500 connections on my LinkedIn. Man, this has grown. I'm going to work this some more. And I started working it and putting out a lot of postings and, requests. And the way I do this, Stephanie, is that I go to a number of networking meetings. There's currently there are 6 different networking functions in the San Antonio and Bexar County area that I go to. And I use that to develop my social media through personal meetings and, getting somebody's card at a networking function. Then you go back and add them on LinkedIn. Well, they're probably going to add you. They're not going to consider that spam. There's some kind of a common interest that you may have. Okay. So as of this morning, I had 22,905 connections.
Wow.
So in a little over a year and a half, I've added well over 20,000 connections. I've been industry specific with this, primarily cultivating areas of those professionals that are in the healthcare industry, in marketing and advertising, and as well as in real estate. So, and the other thing is I've tried to do the best to concentrate in my geographic location, even though that's not always possible. I have roughly 50% of my connections are in the Bexar County area. And I've looked, there's about 400,000 LinkedIn users here, but, roughly 11, 12,000 of them are in my connection. So somehow I'm connected to those other, 300,000 or 400,000 through that.
Wow.
I use a creative form of promotion to often have a picture. In one case, I used a picture of an old shack I took a picture of out in West Texas, mm-hmm. and used that to promote mortgage insurance, and with the idea, if you're not properly insuring your home, in the event of your earnings drop or you have a sudden illness or an unexpected demise, then you or your family could wind up living in that little shack in West Texas. So that gets people's attention.
I have to ask, right? I'm listening to you talk, and it seems like you've been a step ahead of most people as far as catching on to how to make things work, which is probably why you're where you're at. What would you say is probably the single biggest either mindset or factor that has played a role in you being as successful as you are with your business?
Being involved in the community, finding something that you have a passion with, whether it's serving our veteran community. Mine has been primarily towards the special needs, families challenged with autism and other various disabilities, but also involved in organizations serving the veteran community and helping with the community through business development. We all feel like a big solution to what the country is enduring right now with the crime, with the differences in opinions that people have. Let's all get back to business. Let's find a solution. Let's get people employed, get them off the street, and and working in something that they feel comfortable, because they can take pride in that business ownership. They can take pride in the fact that they're hiring other people in the community and providing a means for families that otherwise may not have that.
Wow.
So if people would follow more of that kind of an attitude, it's in the Bible, go out and find a way to serve Jesus. And by doing that, that can help develop our business, because it does come back. In my case, it comes back in the form of referrals. Somebody hears about a person shopping for their insurance. We'll go call Rick Carter. Well, how do I find him? Just Google Rick Carter San Antonio, and I dominate that page.
Well, it's a good thing. You should dominate your Google page.
That's right. Wow.
There are so many people, I think, who never make that connection, who never understand that, you can't, and I think that's part of our duty as business owners, as entrepreneurs, is to go out there and make an impact on our community. That, we have that local presence, that local reach, and we really need to take advantage of that. And I think that's powerful. I can see how that can turn into sales, but I can also see how it kind of broadens your perspective on your business.
It does. And also, I have to say that continuing with education. Now, I'm in a business where we're required to do some level of continuing education. Even though I'm at a point now, I'm like tenured, exempt from a lot of the requirements. Working with items like Medicare, we do have to have an annual update to make sure that we're competent, so that we're guiding the seniors and other people who qualify for Medicare in the right direction.
Right.
And that is, essentially federally mandated through CMS, who controls Medicare. But I want to say what has really developed in the past couple of years, and how I'm doing the private banking side, has been, it's a newer microeconomy, and I see this as a solution to so many of the challenges that we have, particularly in the bigger cities. It's through diversity contracting, where if a business owner has, for some reason, it's what's referred to as a historically underutilized business. It could be a minority or a veteran. Women have a preferential contracting diversity, and those with disabilities. Also, what is considered a small business, although that's a little more of a difficult category. What is small? What's small in New York could be a huge company here in San Antonio. So that has to be quantified somehow. But once that is accomplished, and let's say, I'll pick on a gentleman I have. He has a local, he's a customer with a local AC and HVAC. He does some industrial work and also some residential work for their air conditioning. He is a disabled veteran, Korean and Hispanic. So he walks in with 4 certifications. If he were just a woman, he'd have it all, wouldn't he? and so when he gets, when he's bidding for the contracts, here's how it works, Stephanie. I finally got one of the local agencies to admit, how does this work? How do you give this person preferential treatment over somebody else who may even have a lower bid? So the way we do it is we add points in the forms of percentages to increase the bid from that other business that does not have the small minority women-owned veteran and disabled certification. So that's how they do it. They add dollars onto the other contract. So when it's submitted for bid, the person with the most designations is the one who's most likely to win that bid, assuming that their bid was originally competitive to begin with. It didn't have to be the lowest bid. It just had to be competitive. Now, they have other requirements. They have to make sure they have the financial means to complete the contract. They need bonding, workers' comp, insurance. And so, and we can help guide them on who can help them with that, or, give them the direction. By doing this, and the acronym is SWIMBY. Okay, so for small
minority
business enterprises, but along with that, we also, of course, include veterans and those with disabilities. If you were to Google, get this, Google SWIMBY, Stephanie.
Uh-oh, Rick, are you still there? Uh-oh. Rick? We might have lost our interview guy there. I'm not sure what just happened there. I know I've done a lot of work. Actually, there's an entire SWIMBY conference that happens every December. And Rick, if you pop back on, please feel free to start talking. But there's an entire conference just on the SWIMBY or businesses who match SWIMBY. And it's basically a reverse event where it's really, really cool. Actually, if you want more information on it, do me a favor, pop below. I wish Rick were still here for me to do the wrap up.
Oh, I'm here. Can you hear me okay? Yes, I'm sorry if I was looking at my phone to say, hey, what's going on here? Okay. I'm here. Yeah. So, so as I understand, there was a SWIMBY conference. Excellent.
Yeah, there is. Every December and I actually am one of the speakers at the event every year where we do breakout sessions. So it's the first Wednesday in December every year, and it's very cool. But I'm looking at the time; we've gone way over our normal time limit here.
Oh, okay.
Which is cool because you were sharing such good information. It's kind of hard to make you stop talking because I didn't want to stop taking notes. But I will do this. So I appreciate you taking time to chat with me. Do you have any last words of wisdom for other business owners out there who right now are in the trenches and need some advice? They need some encouragement. They need something to keep going.
Yes, get out there. A handshake and a smile is worth more than 1,000 emails.
I love that. I think that's perfect. We have so many people who get stuck in the emailing, in the Facebooking, in the LinkedIning, and they never go out there and actually make that human-to-human connection. That's just perfect. For our listeners out there, that was worth everything, right? Just sitting there, that reminder, go out there. You have your entire life ahead of you, and you can make it exactly what you want it to be. You just have to decide to go make it great. In the meantime, if you know of a business owner who deserves the spotlight on them, do me a favor, pop below, way below. There's Rick's contact information, and then there will be mine. Send them my way. I would love to put the spotlight on them sometime this fall and show the world the wisdom that they bring to the table. In the meantime, Rick, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join me.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate all you do. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you next time.